Alright guys, Scrappy again. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The World Championship begins tomorrow. Shotzzy revealed exactly how OpTic's preparation has been going over the last couple of weeks, but admitting these last 2 years of scrims have not hit the same as they used to earlier in his career, saying that now it feels more suit and tie, feels more like a chore, and he can totally understand why many pro players in this league have similarly completely lost passion for this game of Call of Duty at the moment here in Black Ops 6. Shotzzy though still says, yes, he's been putting in the work over the last couple of weeks with the World Championship beginning just tomorrow. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to start with. DeReal did a tweet about it yesterday as well, in addition to the LinkedIn post that we saw, but it wasn't just DeReal, because as he says, officially exploring new opportunities. Kismet's here in the replies as well. Obviously, who knows what's going to happen with the roster, but this is effectively, in many respects, the start of Rostermania. Yeah, we're going to have player changes to come, but coaching changes in some situations can precede that. DeReal is going to be looking for new opportunities. So is Marky B. Now, Marky B's situation is a little bit interesting, as he says. Still under contract with Gentlemate, which it seems to be true also for DeReal, because he said that, yeah, his contract will end under, like, at the end of August, full flexibility. So I don't know if he's necessarily going to be there for the World Cup in Riyadh. They might just be like, yeah, we ain't paid you to go or whatever, but he's still going to be under contract, and it's the same for Marky B, but they've given him the freedom to explore opportunities for next season. So yeah, this is effectively Rostermania underway. Gentlemate making some moves inside and outside of the actual core roster. I don't know how many of those players on the core team are going to stay for next year. Probably not all that many. And frankly, for the World Cup, I thought they would do something pretty drastic as well. Maybe they still will. At the end of the day, their season was so bad, Gentlemate's French team, I thought for the World Cup, and maybe they still will, as I say, they'll at least try something French, right? Maybe they bring back Linz. Maybe they bring Cobra in, right? Like, there's a couple of options you could go for to at least give the fans of Gentlemate, of which there are many, something to cheer about, even if they're still not very good. So we'll see what Gataga and the team over there decide to do in due course. Quickly on Toronto as well, they've had an interesting year because over the last few seasons, they've always won something, right? Toronto every single year. Now this year, you can't really blame them in the sense that Scrappy got stolen away, Envoy got stolen away. They were never going to be as good as they were, and even if they were as good, the other teams just got better, right? Thieves got better. I think this season's been a very interesting one. JoeDeceives has been excellent, so has CleanX. Insight's been, let's say, hit or miss. The funny thing with Insight is I think he played his best COD when Mercules was there, with Beans on the team. Insight, you know, tends to play this much slower style, which can occasionally work, but I think the team might have to realize that, you know, we're not playing a Modern Warfare 2 here. We're not playing like a Vanguard. You know, I'm not saying those games were slow precisely, but games that, let's say, posting up on Heady was a more effective strategy. In this game, if you don't move, I think you are falling behind, and I think it is potentially an issue for Toronto to think about when it comes to Insight and, let's say, his style of play. And look, I rate Beans very highly. I think his gunning is very much up there, but I do think Beans has been pretty underwhelming from my perspective this year. He wasn't really the consistent slayer that Toronto, I think, needed a lot of the time, and his decision-making was also kind of questionable. I think in terms of pure talent, Beans, okay, he's not Dashy, he's not Scrappy, but, you know, he's not a million miles away. But in terms of, like, putting that on paper, in terms of consistency and being the slayer that they needed, Beans wasn't really there this season, at least so far. So I think that's a key talking point, right? And when they brought in Mercules, they were, you know, just as good. And then obviously since the Mercules thing, the team's been kind of struggling a fair bit. But over the last 5 years, they've at least won something, right? They won the home series in MW19, whether you count that or not. Ziddy does. Cold War, they won Major 2. Yes, it was online. Vanguard, they won the kickoff. People say, oh, it was a kickoff, doesn't count. But over the last couple of years, Major 3 in Modern Warfare 2, Major 1 in Modern Warfare 3, they won major championships, and they've won, you know, CleanX and Insight pretty much, but CleanX, because he was on the MW19 team too, has won everything with this team over the last few years. But BO6, they've not won anything yet. Their best is top 3, and, you know, not making a finals, it's pretty remarkable because Toronto have not always necessarily had the most money or the most resources resources or whatever. Now, they've done a great job, I think, when it comes to performance coaches and stuff like this, and expanding the array of kind of talents they have from top to bottom of the organization, but they've always been in finals. They've always been there or thereabouts, and that's why for CleanX this season has been very frustrating because, as he says, underwhelming and disappointing this year. Ending the year in 3rd place in the season standings was not impressive, right? They wanted to be in finals, and CleanX talked about this a little bit and says, I've learned a few things about myself, I've improved my self-confidence, handled losses in a healthier way. The season, though, was underwhelming and it was disappointing. Not contending to win an event or being in one of the 4 finals was a letdown for all of us. We hope to turn this around at Champs and EWC. Leading up to Major 3, we looked the best that we had all year, which was very, very true. Felt incredibly confident. They thought they could well win that event, but of course the Beans thing threw them off. Mercules came in and, since then, as he says, it took quite a bit to get back into our rhythm, right? There were clearly things affecting the team, let's say. But they say, look, confidence is high, a lot of excitement to get back on stage. We've been working on our lackluster respawns and getting a fresh look at our search and destroy before both events. And he goes on to say that, Ravens was the best possible outcome for them in terms of who they want to play. If we play our game, a win will come naturally. Our poor performance in other events has made us more focused on giving our all for these last 2 events as a team. So, look, it's a pre-champs interview that Ronnie put together here at CleanX. Of course, he's going to, say that they're confident or whatever. But I will say that it would make sense. Of all the teams that have been, and this is a topic we'll get into with Shotzzy in a second, of all the teams that have been putting the most work in the last month since DreamHack Dallas, I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto are right up there in terms of teams putting in the hard graft behind the scenes, watching extra VODs, coming up with extra search and destroy ideas. I don't know. I think that Toronto are going to be a threat this tournament, especially if they beat Ravens. The issue is, if they beat Ravens, they will play FaZe or OpTic in the next round. Neither of those are easy games. They've obviously FaZe, and then OpTic have kind of had Toronto's number, certainly as of late. So it's not easy to predict that Toronto are going to make a serious run, but I think you've got to keep an eye on them anyway, because every year they've always at least been in position to contend or potentially win. We've had only 3 different finalists this year, FaZe, Thieves and Surge. Maybe Toronto could be a different finalist. I think OpTic could potentially win this event. If everything goes to plan, OpTic could potentially win it. They've got the talent, they've got the strength, they've got the depth potentially. I think the chances are very slim, but in a best of 9 series, I think OpTic could do it. I'm not sure Toronto could do it in a best of 9 series, but I almost feel like Toronto's chances to make the finals are maybe just as strong. But obviously, there are 2 very clear favourites for the tournament right before that. But, I do kind of want to buy into what CleanX is saying here, that given the season so far was pretty underwhelming, they've been working a lot on various aspects to give their all for the World Championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they can bring that level of confidence right back up to where it was a couple of majors ago. He also gives his shout-outs for the award winners. He says that Rencor for sure, Rookie of the Year. Scrap was MVP. You could argue HyDra, I think Scrap takes it, so, doesn't even put, obviously it's a former teammate in Scrap, so he's maybe going to give him some gas, but he doesn't put Cellium or anyone in the convo. He just says, yeah, it's HyDra or Scrap, and then says the EU GOAT is already HyDra, which I think it has to be, really, right? As good as Bance and Zero, many others were. HyDra's won a ring. He's been a top player in the game for the last several years. That's not going to change anytime soon. So Surge versus Heretics is happening in the first round. Thieves versus Boston is happening in the first round. Toronto Ravens, and then of course OpTic versus FaZe. But speaking of OpTic, I wanted to get into a very interesting clip that Shotzzy had on this drop pod that went out. So sitting down with the HyDra guys, was talking with Formal about a few things, and the way that Shotzzy phrases this is very interesting and maybe on some level concerning, but it is what it is, right? Formal, one of the main reasons why he went to HyDra and has stayed in HyDra is because as a competitive scene, it's quite easy, right? To be a pro player. Not to say it's easy to be good. What Formal is getting at is that the pros are not scrimming 24/7 all day long. Formal says they got back from the most recent event. They spent a couple of weeks not really doing anything, not much pressure on the teams to scrim. And, we talk about paycheck stealers in COD. Not to say that, there are that many paycheck stealers in HyDra, because the paychecks are not substantial over there. But, I don't know, if I'm a team and I don't know, if I'm an organisation, I'm paying for my team, and I'm hearing that, yeah, for a couple of weeks after the major, no one was scrimming because nobody really cares, nobody wants to put in the extra work, and people are like, oh, I'm not going to put pressure on you to practice, it's fine, everyone will get back to it in a couple of weeks, right? So there's this kind of feeling that Formal is very happy with at this point in his career, and totally understandably so, that he doesn't want to do 2-3 scrim sets a day. He'd much rather do the one scrim set of HyDra and enjoy the rest of his time, right, and still be like the best in the game. So that's understandable. In COD, it's a little different, right? The teams do put in more time. And at the end of the day, these guys are getting paid to do a job, right? Like, that is what it is. Not every single component of it is always going to be fun. And I think that's okay. And I think Shotzzy recognizes that that's okay. You know, he says suit and tie can be a bit of a chore. Okay, wouldn't it be great if every single part of everything that you did for a day job was all sunshine and rainbows and all fun? That's not how it is, right? That's fine. And it would be nice if that was true as well. I mean, look, if the boys got paid to play Black Ops 3 on the daily, I'm sure they'd be having a great time. But the game is different nowadays. Scrimming, as Shotzzy says, for the last couple of years, has felt more like a chore. And he understands why there are multiple players in the league now that feel like they've lost a lot of passion for the game.
What's scrimming at this point in your career? Is it like a chore?
Nah, not with Halo's schedule.
You actually fuck with Halo?
Yeah, I mean, like, I fuck with competing in Halo. And like, for example, we got back from the tournament, like 2 weeks ago. We haven't even like given a fuck about scrimming. Like, and no one's on,
I don't think anyone has.
No players on each other's ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone's been doing their own thing. Like, we're still all on every day and like playing whenever we want.
Nah, yeah,
like,
see that's
it's not like COD. Like,
you know, yo, COD is insane.
It's not like COD's insane, dude. COD's insane.
I'm
What's
not gonna
COD?
lie.
Like, get back from the tourney, wins our scrim.
Nah, I feel like that's probably why people's passions like slowly died down. I swear to you,
Yeah, it feels like
I'm not
work in
gonna lie.
COD,
I'm
bro.
gonna be
That's the
honest.
thing.
Like, don't get it twisted. I love fucking scrimming, bro, and I really do. Trust me. But like, I feel like lately it's been feeling like a chore. But like, this is probably like the last like 2 years. Like, I don't think I felt this feeling like in Vanguard. But like the last 2 years, it's definitely felt a lot more like suit and tie. Whereas if like, it's kind of just like enjoying like the process of scrimming. I feel like I don't really like enjoy that anymore. Like I enjoy playing the game and scrimming, but like I don't know how to explain it. You know?
Is it just like
I gotta say
certain
this, bro.
teams?
Rep chat in MW that was like, yo, let's like start with we want to go out late night, bro. You guys don't even play the game. You guys don't even care.
Oh yeah, dude.
Making champs, like, you know what I mean? They're like, yo, we want to go out late night. Let's play at 1. Yeah, we know you want to go. You don't give a fuck about this.
Dude, when I was living in
So what do you guys think about Shotzzy's perspective? As he says at the start, it's not like they haven't been putting in the work, but he just feels like over the last, and I do get it, over the last months or so, they've just been, the last month really, they've just been grinding to no end. And I think this is why this whole idea of, you know, the passion maybe is lacking, or let's say burnout or whatever, starts to come into play. I actually think it's the case of not playing enough matches of COD. I think that's what it comes down to fundamentally. It's a big talking point in Valorant quite often. There's been Valorant players that have said that the team's feeling burned out because all they're doing is just practicing all the time. And at least this is my read on it, is that there's barely any matches in Valorant. So people are just grinding like all day to not really see any of that on the server and not get the reaction to it. I think this is maybe, now Shotzzy says it's the last couple of years thing, but I do honestly think that if there were more competitive matches, if every weekend there was some sort of tournament, or the teams are playing a couple of matches even midweek like they used to do back in the day, then there would be less of a feeling of losing passion for it and getting burned out from the scrims, because, you know, the scrims wouldn't be 99% of what you play. Because at the end of the day, practicing and working on things is not going to be as fun, as enjoyable as playing real matches when something's actually on the line. And I think the scene would be more enjoyable for the players. And even though the game isn't great, and that is of course a fundamental issue, if all you're doing all the time is practicing, of course you're going to get frustrated, of course you're going to get tired, of course you're going to get pretty burned out with it. And so I think that's one of the issues with the current format that we have, especially, you know, the teams play all week and then they have one match Sunday evening and that's it for the weekend, right? Like, and that's even when the online qualifiers are up and running and they're happening every single weekend. I think, you know, there should be more of importance happening during the season, frankly, more COD to play, and then I think it'd be better for all parties. But very much interested to your thoughts as ever in the comments below. It's not like Shotzzy's not been grinding going into champs. Of course, OpTic very much have been, but whether Shotzzy's words mean that OpTic haven't been putting in the absolute 101% that maybe they could have needed, who knows. But their average placing so far this season has not been great, behind Miami, behind Toronto, and then of course FaZe and Thieves, number 1, number 2, no real surprises there. Of course, Thieves averaging 2nd place in the matches they've played this season. First, 2nd, and 4th are their results so far, but of course we'll see at champs whether they can make that, average placement any better, because if it stays as it is, then there's going to be a different champion. But very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in a comment section below. Thought this is pretty good. The boys put together 10-hour flight to champs. Where are you sitting? Which seat are you looking for? The guys put together some pretty good options here. There was a little bit of talk about maybe seat number 4. I think one of the top replies was as follows. Let me just find it right here. Yeah, here we go. I'm taking 4 and I'm kicking the hell out of the seat in front of me the whole trip. So, just see that as you will. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.